Mark Pocan is a Democratic congressman I hadn't previously heard about, but he's working with Keith Ellison, who you have probably heard about, and they have a very interesting idea that they're working on. They want to enshrine in the Constitution an amendment that would grant a positive right to vote. Now you might think, don't we already have the right to vote in the Constitution? Not so much, really. We do have a couple of restrictions on the sorts of ways that voting can be infringed upon, and they've previously worked on things like civil rights and things like that to make sure that people can vote to some extent. But that's always sort of reactionary. One side tries to take away voting rights, and then another side does something to restore them. So what they want to do is get out in front of these different legal challenges to voting that we see almost every election now. So I'll give Mark Pocan a chance to talk about what he's working on here. He says, essentially what it would do is it would put the burden on any of the states that try to make laws that are more restrictive than they would have to prove that they're not disenfranchising a voter, rather than currently where a voter has to prove they've somehow been wronged by a state measure. And so that, I think, is very interesting. Now, the problem here is that when you try to fight against these restrictions on voting, you're often on your own. Maybe you have an organizational step in and try to lend some support to you, but it's your own sort of battle. Whereas the opposition to voting and those who are trying to take away voting rights, who have a ton of money, by the way, often these are rich individuals or organizations who are working across the country in multiple states at the same time to take away these voting rights. And so I think it's very important to take away the burden on the individuals who are trying to make sure that they actually can exercise their freedoms and their rights to vote, and to do something proactive. And so I like that they're working on this. And they talk about sort of the political impetus for this, why this is necessary. This is Pocan as well. He says, I think there are a number of folks, most likely on the right, who are looking at when we have larger turnout elections generally. I think they realize that they don't have much control over the election. Trying to control who goes to vote is just another strategy in trying to have an electoral outcome. And that's the reason. It's not like some kind of mystery what's leading to this. We understand the significance behind the need for an amendment like this. We understand who is assaulting voting rights. It's not even. It's not like 1 year it's the Democrats, 1 year it's the Republicans, and they take turns. It's not like in Massachusetts the Democrats are fighting against voting rights and the Republicans are really they're on the prowl in Utah. No, this is conservatives all over the country. There have been a couple of prominent quotes from high up right-wingers. You've probably heard them before about how they don't want more people to vote. So I'm not going to replay those for you now. But you understand what's going on. You understand that every electoral cycle there's going to be there's a lot of interest in the election this year. So Republicans are going to vote on Tuesday and Democrats are going to vote on Wednesday to make sure that everyone has time to vote. That happens every single time. You see the massive billboards saying, if you have parking tickets or something, they're going to be checking when you go to vote, so you don't want to go then. And it's reprehensible, because this is supposed to be the strength of our country, that we have, we were one of the first and one of the best in terms of popular democracies, where everybody is allowed to get involved once we got past the whole slavery thing. And that's what we want in this country. And it's even worse, I think, that it's not just they're trying to do whatever they can to stop Democrats from voting. It's difficult in general, I think, to stop Democrats from voting specifically. But they target the elderly, they target the poor, they target minorities. We know that that's the strategy. And so I love that Mark Pocan and Keith Ellison are working on this. Now, even they admit they have no idea how far this is going to go. I mean, they're just two congressmen right now. They're trying to rally support. And it seems to make some sense, but it's extremely hard to amend the Constitution. Now, I would say I don't know the exact provisions that will be in this, but one thing that's just frustrating to me is that we had the period where we had a Democratic president and we had Democratic majority control of both the Senate and the House of Representatives. And the fact that they weren't able to pass a law making the voting day a national holiday, that just blew my mind, because it seems like such an obvious, both good thing just in terms of our values as favoring democracy, as wanting people to be involved, but also politically, for the Democrats' point of view, it seems like a great thing to have those who might not, because of their work environment, be able to get the time off to vote, give them a little bit more time. And it just makes sense from a practical point of view, because we've seen how long the lines in some urban voting centers are. So I like that they're working on this. We don't know yet if it will pass, but we'll certainly be watching for that. I think in advance of the next election, something like this is definitely necessary, and so kudos to those two congressmen.